Good afternoon and welcome to our Zoom session on Gifted and Talented Services for Leadership. My name is Lindsay Dotterweg. I am a gifted and talented itinerant teacher for the district. If you all have any questions along the way, you can send them in the chat, and LeBron Horton, our gifted coordinator, is sitting by to answer those along the way. So let's get started. So just to review the definition of leadership, students identified as gifted in leadership possess either a demonstrated or potential ability to perform at an exceptionally high level in social skills and interpersonal qualities. That could include having really good poise, effective communication, either orally or written, the ability to manage other people, and an ability or vision to set goals and organize other people to reach those goals. Some of our identification criteria for identifying kids in 4th through 12th grade as gifted in leadership. Remember, you have to have 3 pieces of evidence to identify, and they can come from any of the following of these: a documented leadership position, either at the school level or outside of school in the community. Letters of recommendation from teachers. It could be from school staff, family members, or community members who know them. Leadership jot downs, hope scales, peer surveys or nominations. They can nominate themselves, and leadership behavior checklist. And most of these criteria can be found in our Gifted Education Google Drive, which there's a link to at the end of our slide. Leadership services. So students who are identified as gifted in leadership must have at least 2 different service options. And these services should just give students opportunities to practice and develop their leadership skills. So we're going to start with some service options at the classroom level. So these are services that can occur inside the classroom with their regular education teachers. These include direct lessons that have an emphasis on leadership, giving students classroom leadership roles, and independent studies, which we're going to dive into a little deeper. So first, direct lessons. So this just means giving students lessons related to leadership, and these could be whole class lessons or lessons for those specific students that are identified in a small group, for example. And they could be on a variety of leadership topics, but that might include lessons on public speaking, how to listen empathically, how vision has a role in leadership, taking calculated risks, working on those oral and or written communication skills. And then I know we have a lot of schools out there participating in Leader Me this year. So if you are doing those lessons on the 7 habits, those would count as services for leadership. I have pictured on the slide a few resources for direct lessons that can be used. Many of these texts also dive into looking at influential leaders and what they have done to develop their leadership skills, and there is a curriculum for elementary, middle, and high. Classroom leadership roles. So this is different than just a normal job or task, such as like a chair stacker in your classroom. So this gives students the opportunities to kind of take ownership of a role, and they have the ability to make decisions or offer changes to improve that role. And when you're thinking of what to give them for roles, think about what you as a teacher are already doing that can be turned over to students that will allow them those opportunities to develop and practice their leadership skills. So some examples of those could be like a technology leader who troubleshoots Chromebooks and iPad issues, things like that. A greeter who welcomes students into the room each day. A librarian who not only just puts books away, but also decides how the classroom library is organized, or even suggests books to add to the classroom library. And then maybe an attendance clerk who not only just takes roll, but does something with that data, maybe creates celebrations or tracks data to share with admin or things like that. And then even better is to allow students to decide the needs in the classroom and let them kind of offer to you leadership roles that they would like to take a part in. Next is independent studies. So these are just self-directed learning experiences, and they're led by the student, but under teacher's guidance. So you want these to be things that students are interested and passionate about, and that they have the majority of the decision making in their hand. And some examples that you could do in the classroom is allowing them to come up with and plan and carry out service learning projects. They can also do studies of influential leaders and really doing a deep dive into those and what leadership skills they possess, and then kind of creating some kind of project to show what they've learned. And then problem-based learning experiences. So letting them tackle real-world problems and using their leadership skills to come up with solutions. Then there are school level services. So these are things that would occur during the school day still, but may not take place in their regular classroom. So those could include leadership roles that are school-wide, clubs, or enrichment services. So just like classroom leadership roles, school-wide leadership roles are, again, more than just a simple job that they do or a task they do, but really allow those students to take ownership of them. But they take place school-wide, not just limited to the classroom. So some examples could be a tour guide. So when visitors come to your building, you may have students that take your visitors around, introduce them, things like that. You could have an announcement team that serves as a service option, safety patrol, maybe a new student orientation team who, when you get new students in, gives them a tour, gets them supplies, hangs out with them for the day or two to get them used to your school. I know a lot of our schools already have backpack student teams in place, helping with those student backpacks, uploading, creating defenses. So that could offer a service option for your leadership identified kids. If your school has a newsletter allowing your students to write or become editors of that, and then school ambassadors that kind of represent who your school is. And then some clubs that can serve as service options for leadership identified kids. So STLP, student council, a peer mediation group, data club, student government, and then for our Leader in Me schools, that student lighthouse team is a service option as well. So we have enrichment services. So this is typically an added feature in the school schedule. So it could be maybe during a WIN or intervention time, but it's usually a time where students meet with staff members throughout the building to engage in something beyond just the regular curriculum. So instead of your gifted leadership kids going to like a reading or math group for what they need, they could maybe go to a leadership group run by someone in your building instead. And so some things that you could do during that time are, again, service learning projects. You could have seminars, which are kind of just discussion-based groups, where an expert kind of in the field or somebody that knows about the leadership and giftedness can kind of serve as a discussion point for them. And then also you could have mentoring by school staff. And I'm going to pull up some different resources that might be helpful for you all. You can create a free account on any of these to kind of check them out yourself. The first one is WeSchools, and this one can be used from 4th grade to 12th grade. It is based on service learning projects, and there's kind of different categories that you can choose from that your students are interested in completing. So, and they have lesson plans as well that go along with them. But for example, your students can choose a campaign. So maybe they're interested in bettering the school lunch or solving world hunger or things like that. They can kind of choose which one they're interested in, create their lesson plans to go with them, and then your students can participate in some kind of service learning project. And then you can also network with other schools that are participating in this. I know there are some schools already in our district who are participating in this. The next one is Lead for Change. This one is geared more towards middle school and high school. And this one is really even more like laid out and detailed. There are specific lessons that you can do with your students. There are pacing guides, depending on how long of a time period you have to meet with students, there are different kind of lesson tracks for you to do, as well as videos based on kind of different leadership skills. So I'll even pull up kind of the pacing guide for you all. So for example, it kind of teaches different, team building or learning about themselves, things like that, that will help them develop those leadership skills. So that's another thing you can use during that enrichment time to service your leadership kiddos. And then the last one is Read to Lead. And this one is geared 5th through 9th grade, but you could definitely use it for your 4th graders as well. And this one's kind of a web-based virtual learning experience that also has teacher-led lessons and discussions to go with them. But it's kind of a little more game-based. And the way it works is students kind of pick a virtual world to be a part of. For this one, it takes place in a community center. The vital signs takes place at a hospital, and students have to make different decisions based on what is presented to them. And the good thing about this one is it is based upon reading standards. So if you look kind of at the unit at a glance, they have kind of up here the unit themes of leadership, so cooperation, responsibility, perspectives, integrity, but it also ties it into reading skills. So you can see along here kind of some of the different reading standards that it's going to also touch. So this is definitely a good thing to do during that enrichment time. And again, all of those are linked in here for you all to come back to at any time, and you are able to sign up for a free account for all 3 of those. We have community level services, mentorships, and then leadership competitions and conferences. And for any of these are ones that take place outside of school hours oftentimes, and while those can serve as one of your services, you want to make sure that at least one of their services is occurring during the school day. So one of those options is mentorships, and a mentorship is just the school connects students with people who have specific skill sets and knowledge related to leadership, and that might be possible mentors to be a business leader, a government official, politicians, coaches, public speakers, anyone who's kind of a leader in their field in an area that your students are interested in. And then just to kind of a hint here, your FRC can usually help you reach out to people in the community. They usually already have a lot of community links and may be able to help you bring people in to serve as mentors as your students. As far as how often mentors come in, that's kind of up to each school and mentor to decide. But we want it to be, like once a month or every other month to make it worthwhile. And then leadership competitions and conferences. We have the Kentucky Youth Assembly, which is a 3-day conference in Frankfurt that, well, is it in Frankfurt? Let me check. But it sets them up as a little government for 3 days. And let's see, actually it's held here in Louisville. And there are multiple dates for middle school and multiple dates for high school. And there are also scholarships that will allow your students to attend, because I know that's a big need. And then Kentucky United Nations Assembly is also pretty similar, except for they're serving kind of as the United Nation, representing different countries and solving kind of world issues that way. And then we have a high school conference called Empowering Kentucky, and it is actually designed by high schoolers. Again, I believe it is a 3-day conference. And it is at Berea College. You can apply, and they also offer scholarships for this conference. And it kind of focuses on developing strategies of leadership, solving kind of social justice type issues, as well as focusing on leadership skills that allow them to kind of empower them against mental health issues, substance abuse, and other things like that. And then some other competitions that your students might participate in and practices, for example, would also serve as services are that future problem solving team or your STLP team. Thank you all for being here.